Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And this is episode 2 of our show that still hasn't got a name. And subhanAllah, it's been a very, very interesting week for us here in Syria, but we've had to keep up with the shows. We literally just came back from Aleppo City and Hama for Taqil yesterday, and alhamdulillah, this is episode 2.
So basically, this is one of our issues, right? Trying to be consistent, but mashallah, your feedback has been excellent. So we said, you know what, we don't care whatever happens, we're going to do it, right?
Yeah.
But you're going to bear with us because this is going to be the most kind of...
We said that last week though.
I think it's going to be the story of our life. I think it's going to be like this. We live in Syria in a war zone.
Yeah.
So to be honest, I think hopefully it'll be better for you guys because this is just going to be a lot more off the cuff, a lot more organic. We haven't organized as many points as that we wanted to, right?
Yeah.
So while we're even doing this, we're probably going to be looking at some stuff and seeing what's going on, because obviously, as you guys know, Syria's been going crazy. Look, right now you can hear takbirat of the masjid.
Yeah.
Right? And what that means is more areas are being liberated right now as we speak. Like what has happened over the last week here has been absolutely unbelievable. We feel like we are living in a dream, right? And it's something historical.
Not just for us, all the people that are from the areas that have been liberated throughout this week. The one thing that we just keep hearing over and over again is it feels like a dream. They say literally they went to sleep, woke up the next morning, and areas were just being liberated. Just the whole day, everyone's just looking on the phones, looking on the TV, looking at the news, because it's just happening so fast that it's literally you just want to keep up. But for the people, literally, that's one thing that we've been hearing this week is that it feels surreal. It literally just feels like a dream.
So is this what we're going in? First point today is update on the situation in Syria.
On the list for today, obviously, there's been a lot happening and a lot of people are commenting on our posts from TikTok, Twitter. We've got a Telegram channel that we're keeping up to date, like literally every single minute. So we thought we'll go into a little bit of an update on the situation here on the ground in Syria, as so much has happened in the space of 1 week.
So I'm going to give you a quick recap in the most simple, easiest way, right? Beginning of the revolution, it was very organic. People started raising up against this tyrant, Bashar al-Assad. If you don't know the reasons why people rose up against Bashar al-Assad, then you need to go and do your homework. But basically, it was a very oppressive, brutal regime. People were not allowed to, study their religion, go to the masjid, grow a beard, all of this kind of stuff. There was a massacre in 1982 in Hama, where people were killed just for apparently being Ikhwan al-Muslimin, lined up and basically shot to pieces.
Yeah.
So there's so much history here of how the brutal Assad regime, so Hafiz Assad and then his son Bashar, how they dominated, how a minority Alawite, because they're Alawis, right? They're from a minority sect of Shia Islam. Even Shia Islam doesn't really accept them because they have some crazy views, right? How they came to be dominant over a majority Sunni country, obviously is a different conversation itself. But anyway, the people rose up in all different areas. It wasn't organized, it was very organic. People in the beginning began with protests. Eventually it became an armed struggle, and they more or less took over most of the country within the first year. 60 to 70% of the country had been liberated, except for the main major cities. The regime was able to hold on to the main cities. All of the countryside areas of those cities, so the provinces, were liberated, but the majority of the cities were not. And then Bashar al-Assad and his military regime used helicopters to basically throw barrel bombs on civilian populations to punish everybody who had basically
rose up and spoken out against their regime. And that's the crazy thing, because in this time right now, obviously a lot of people only know about the war that has happened recently in 2011, but the oppression of the Assad regime didn't just start in 2011. Obviously, you got the Hama massacre that happened in 1982. There are prisoners being released right now that have been in prison for over 30 years. So that would have been in the time of Hafiz al-Assad, Bashar al-Assad's father. There were prisoners still kept in their dungeons till this week, subhanAllah.
So just to continue the story, so the rebels took over most of the country. Then in 2017, I think it was the intervention of Russia and Iran and Hezbollah and all of these nations to come to the rescue of Bashar al-Assad, because obviously his regime would have fallen then. And then slowly there was the siege of Aleppo, the siege of Damascus, the siege of all of these different places. And basically, the regime took all of these places back, but with the help of Russia.
Yeah.
In recent times, it seems, so what ended up happening after that is, majority of this popular revolution, if you want to call it, because you got to understand it's a popular revolution. This is what people won't accept, that Bashar's own people from Homs, from Hama, from all of these different parts of the country, they all rose up. They refused, when Bashar retook these areas, they refused to live in those areas, and they all came to the north. So basically, for the last 5, 6, 7 years, you've had millions of people all kind of, you could say, merged together, blocked up in this small northern area. We had only one city, which is the smallest city in Syria, which was Idlib city, and some of the northern areas bordering Turkey. And so you can imagine all of these people living in refugee camps, living in the most difficult situation, bottled up all of this time. And then now, after 5 years of there being, not much fighting, this explosion where the Mujahideen have been able to break the front lines of the Syrian regime, and because they haven't had their helpers, the Iranians' backs have been broken, the Hezbollah militias' backs have been broken because of the Israelis. And this is another point that obviously is on people's minds. Are the Syrian rebels, exacting out the orders of Israel? This is a completely different conversation, but we can touch on that in a bit. But anyway, they were able to break these ranks, and Russia itself has also pulled out, and it's shown how fragile the Syrian regime was. Even the Syrian regime soldiers, when you see them, most of them are conscripts. They don't even want to be there. Like literally, they're just giving up now. City after city is just giving up. And now you have the rebel forces, the people of this country are now all coming towards Damascus. And we hope, inshallah ta'ala, by the time you see this video, maybe Damascus will already have been liberated. I think there's only 4 or 5 major cities left. Homs, Latakia, Damascus, obviously, Tartus. These are the 4 major cities left, and if they fall, then Bashar's regime is over. Inshallah, it's already over.
Yeah, inshallah.
So yeah, where do you want to go from there? There's so much to touch upon. If we could talk about this for the whole stream.
Yeah, but this is the thing. I think people want to know more now, because there's so much talk. Even, subhanAllah, this whole week we've been having conversations back and forth with pro-Palestinian supporters, Sunni, not even Shia or anything like that, but just against us, because we are against Bashar al-Assad and his regime. And in the beginning, I was just like, how have they come to this conclusion of anyone that is anti-Assad is basically pro-Israel, because Bashar al-Assad apparently is helping Palestine and Palestinians. So there has been a huge conversation back and forth this whole week, trying to make people understand that these two wars are completely different. We even mentioned this last week on our show, because even then the conversations had started. But yeah, we're trying to get as much information up as possible and trying to make that kind of clear to everyone, that just because somebody is against the Assad regime does not mean that they are pro-Israel.
I think obviously most of you guys that will know me, and anyone new that's watching, you guys know that Palestine was, the Palestinian cause changed my life. When I went to Gaza in 2009, it's something that's very close to my heart. So I would never be a part of something that is against the Palestinian people and our Muslim brothers and sisters there. But it's very important to understand that as Muslims, as humans, we cannot have selective outrage, or we cannot have partisanship to any one group. So for us, and for every Muslim, it should be the case that the blood of Muslims in Palestine is sacred. The blood of Muslims in Syria is also sacred, right? And then the blood of minorities, the blood of anyone should be safeguarded, right? So wherever we see oppression, we should be against that. Now, where things become confusing is the Palestinians are being oppressed. The Syrians are also being oppressed. But because Bashar al-Assad, and I would say Bashar al-Assad is not even really helping Palestine, because he's the one who has the biggest border with Israel. If he really wanted to do something, he could have done something. All of these aeroplanes and these missiles that he was firing on his own population, if he really wanted to help Palestine, he could have launched these onto Israel a long time ago, being the closest person.
Exactly. Israel is even saying right now that they need to try and keep Bashar al-Assad on their border and not have the Sunni Muslims have the border with them, because obviously they must feel some kind of safety with having Bashar al-Assad on the border with Palestine than having the opposition.
I think it's a tricky situation. I think I don't want people to get pipe dreams. I think even the opposition now, even if they were to take power, it wouldn't be smart for them to say that they're going to attack Israel. And then at the same time, it's not smart for them to say that they're going to do normalization with Israel, because they're in a very tricky position. And so what we need to understand is that the Syrian people's right to rise up against Bashar al-Assad, it's like saying people are being oppressed over there, and because the Palestinians are being oppressed, we have to take oppression by Bashar al-Assad, and we shouldn't say anything, because some people have the idea in their mind that the Iranians and the Hezbollah militias, because they are giving weapons to Hamas or some of the Palestinian resistance group, that means we need to stay quiet and take our oppression. That makes no sense at all. Any of these pro-Assadists, they wouldn't do that themselves. They're putting a standard out there that they wouldn't do themselves. It's like saying, now let's just say if an Iranian army member came to your house and wanted to take over your house and take all of your property, take your children, murder your family, and you'd be like, no, I can't fight against this guy. I cannot even tell him what he's doing is wrong, because in turn the Iranian support for Palestine, and that means I'm anti-Palestine, which is completely ridiculous. So inshallah ta'ala, what we hope from all of this, and we obviously can't tell the future, but we hope that the new regime, the new, inshallah, government, the people that take over from the rebels and all the rebel groups, one, they're going to have the rights of the people here on their minds, so that inshallah the situation will be better. And obviously, since territories have been freed, we've been speaking to some of the people that were living under Bashar areas, and I'll come to that in a minute. And then number two, that they will also, inshallah ta'ala, once they've strengthened themselves, start thinking about helping other Muslims and other Muslims in other countries, inshallah ta'ala. We don't hope that there's going to be normalization like the UAE and some of these treacherous countries, but at the end of the day, it's a very difficult position. We have bigger Muslim countries with a lot more power, and they're doing nothing for Palestine.
I mean, the thing, a lot of people are attacking us, saying, oh, what have you done for Palestine? What have you done for Palestine? And it's crazy, because this whole situation right now is so positive and something so great for the Muslims and for the Ummah, but they're still being looked at in a negative way. Okay, this is happening here in Syria, but what have you guys done for Palestine?
What have all the armies of all of the Muslim world done for Palestine? Like, you expect a group of rebels, a group of popular, a popular revolution that hasn't even succeeded yet to go and start doing stuff for Palestine. So it's unrealistic. But moving on to the next point, which is how people were living under Bashar al-Assad. So recently I've been in Aleppo city. Racquell's been there as well. It's crazy. I can't believe the way people were surviving. When we came in from the northern areas, people were looking at us like we're aliens.
They were literally stopped. Like we've been saying, like in a time lapse, they've literally been stopped in the past and kept there and made to just be always in need of just the smallest necessities, like a pack of bread. Literally, they've just been made to just run after their needs, their basic
their daily needs.
Their daily needs. It was like literally going back in the past, going into Aleppo city at first, and listening to the people and how difficult their life has been, and hearing, just say for example, the normal wage for someone working in a top job, just say the normal wage for an accountant inside Aleppo city was $70.
Yeah, we went into like a government official, their salaries were like $20 a month. Someone who was working in a hotel, their wage was $40 a month. Cars that are $1,500 here are $17,000 in the regime territories. When I drove my car in, my car is not an expensive car, it's just a normal car here. It's about $4,000, $5,000 you can get one for. Over there, it's $110,000, right? So when we came in, people were looking at us like we were zombies. An iPhone 16 right? An iPhone 16
Hasn't
in
even come
Aleppo,
out. Hasn't even come
they don't
out.
even have them. Why?
Don't
Because
even
they're
have
like $3,000.
Yeah.
So, you know, we went and done some shopping the first few days. People were still using the Syrian currency.
Like
they were afraid to take dollars because in the time of the regime, anyone that was caught using dollars or Turkish lira would be sent to prison. So we got hold of some Syrian money, and literally just to buy bread, eggs, oil, we had to walk in with a wad of cash like this.
Yeah.
So people were living really difficult lives. The other thing that people told me was that what they felt over the last 6 months was as if Bashar was saying goodbye. What do they mean by that? The taxes and the pressure that the people were being put under their lives were like hell. So what they were saying is that there were charges for everything. If you want to park your car on the street, you got to pay money.
Yeah.
If you want to get water, the charges went up. If you went for gas, they were saying that the normal taxes that they were paying just to have a business, for example, they would pay that tax, and then at the end of the year, they would have to, or at the end of the month, sorry, they would have to pay a special branch would come called Fara al-Khatib. They would come, they would take the person, take you to an undisclosed location, say, this month, this is how much money you've made. You need to give us 70%. And if they didn't pay it, they would go to prison. Crazy stories like this.
That's the crazy thing, is that the amount of oppression even still happening under the Assad regime is kept... they were able to keep it so locked into their territories. Now we've got the access to the people and to actually hear, you know, their stories and how life was. I was sitting with an old uncle, subhanAllah, he's so ill, suffering with diabetes, and his legs are all swollen, and he was just on the phone to his family just saying, you know, we've come out of Jahannam into Jannah. They've literally left hell and come into paradise, because they felt their lives were just literally on lockdown. And even people saying that for the first time in 8 years, they can contact their relatives and their families without having to go through codes and, you know, go through a system of making sure the phone call is not going to be listened or monitored. Because if anything was said against the Assad regime, that person would literally get taken and locked up and put into prison. Probably you would never hear about that person again. You know, even things as small as a social media post, people would literally get taken for if they said anything against the Assad regime.
And when you go into these regime areas, one thing you see is Bashar and Hafiz's picture everywhere. It's like, it's one of those things that these brutal dictators, what they want you to do is live in a constant fear. You know, atmosphere of fear. That I'm watching you, don't move a step. And that's how these people really felt. Even till now, they can't believe that they've been freed. And people will say, no, people in Aleppo, people in Damascus, all these places, they're happy, etc., etc. And look at all these YouTubers that have been going there. Let me tell you something, guys. A lot of these YouTubers, they're propagandists. And inshallah, one of the things we're going to do is some of these YouTubers, we're gonna be opening their videos and going to the same places and showing you the things that they never showed you, right? It's crazy. And one of the things that I want to put out there, which is really important, is if what we're saying is not true, right? And this isn't a popular revolution, and the mass people, the normal Syrian people, they do want Bashar, then how come all these cities are falling so easily? The rebels don't have no air force. The rebels don't have no external army coming in to support them. But
his army are literally running out of the towns. Like literally,
that's right.
The first few days was literally, you know, the Mujahideen would get to one area, the regime soldiers were running out. They weren't even, defending their own people. You know, from their side.
They don't believe in Bashar al-Assad. You know? Even Bashar al-Assad, since it's all been going on, he hasn't even come out and made a statement because he has no popular support. The people don't love him, they hate him. Many villages, even Shia villages, now have been coming and greeting the rebels.
Today, the Druze in Sweda.
They
took the statue of Hafiz al-Assad's face down in their area in Sweda, and the other area that's in the outskirts of Damascus. The Druze are taking down the statues of Hafiz al-Assad.
And then you've got Mazraoui, another sect of Shias in Salamiya. They also greeted the rebels. So you can see that nobody is happy with Bashar. The only areas that are probably happy with Bashar is Qardaha, Latakia. These are the areas that he's from, the coastal areas. And they are the strongholds. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with those as the rebels keep advancing. But subhanAllah, it's one of those things, it's really important to understand, like, who are we Sometimes you've got even scholars out there that saying this is wrong and whatever. Who are we to tell these people that they're wrong for fighting up against an oppressive ruler?
Yeah.
Especially when the Prophet ﷺ said, that al-kalimat al-haq did the sultan al-ja'ir, that's like the highest level of jihad. That's one thing, that, we should do amr bi ma'ruf wa nahy al-munkar. We should command the good and forbid the evil. And if we see an evil, we should change it with our hands. Why are we telling these people that they shouldn't change their destiny with their hands, especially when what they're fighting for is their basic rights just to live as Muslims, right?
Yeah.
To practice their religion. And now some of these scholars, a lot of them, I've been watching them, and I'm going to do some reactions. They've been saying, but people used to go to Damascus, Rukn ad-Din, and they would study, and everything was nice. Yeah, because they would allow you as foreigners. It's the same as Palestine. It's easier for us as Brits and Americans and people to go to Masjid al-Aqsa than it is for the Palestinians themselves.
Yeah.
Can't you imagine that that's the same situation here in Syria? That they would let you come and study and do your Islamic rituals.
And you see the other side, you see the nice side of it. But then obviously the Syrians that were living in Syria, living in those areas,
they're living the reality.
They were not allowed to study. The sisters were not allowed to wear niqab. Brothers were not even allowed to have a beard. And there's even videos from the beginning of the revolution. Remember this video when they were pulling at his beard? It's so similar to the video that came out recently in Sudan. SubhanAllah, one of a Syrian uncle, the regime soldiers were pulling at his beard and cussing him and being so horrible to him just because he had a beard. This was the reality of many, many Syrians living in Syria. SubhanAllah, we know sisters, I've spoken to sisters myself, sisters that work in our schools that tell us, SubhanAllah, they used to have to hide in the night to sneak out just to have Islamic lessons and just to have Quran lessons and to teach other people as well. And subhanAllah, you respect them so much because they've come out with this knowledge, but they went through a true struggle, literally put their life on the line to be able to seek the knowledge of Islam.
Yeah, and subhanAllah, there's worse. There's so many more stories. The famous videos where they're telling people to say La ilaha illa Bashar. There's no God but Bashar al-Assad. Sisters we know that have been raped. There's so much that's happened. And we inshallah very hopeful with the stages that are coming forward, and we hope that the groups here on the ground, inshallah ta'ala, make the life of our brothers and sisters here better, inshallah ta'ala. It's still a lot of unknowns. We don't know how things are going to progress, but we ask you and everyone that's watching to keep the brothers and sisters in Syria in their du'as. And of course we're always going to be here inshallah as long as we can, so that we can have a positive impact and benefit for the ummah here, inshallah ta'ala. I think something that's really important to discuss is Ramadan, because Ramadan's coming up in 80 days. We had significant plans and we were planning for Ramadan, but even ourselves now, we don't know how things are going to move forward and what we're going to be doing. Obviously the super village, mashallah, is still being built. One of the things I've been asking a lot of people whose towns have been liberated is, are you going to go back? Because I'm like, okay, we're building a super village now, what if everybody moves back? Obviously first all of Syria hasn't been liberated, so maybe all these people won't have a chance to go back. But the other thing is, I spoke to a lot of people and they were like, we may have got our land back, our town back, but it's flattened to the ground. We don't even have a home, so we can't go back.
Don't even have homes to go back to. People that even had their homes, literally their whole homes were looted, floors were taken out, ceilings were taken out. So subhanAllah, a lot of people there, the areas have been liberated, but they've got nowhere to go back to.
Yeah, so alhamdulillah, a lot of good things, to be hopeful about. This at this time in Syria.
But this, subhanAllah, obviously coming to Ramadan, a big eye opener for me was going to the poorer sides of Aleppo city and seeing the poverty and how people are living in the poorer sides of Aleppo city. There's been a lot of videos coming out, by the castle, the sites and the history of Aleppo. But subhanAllah, the people there are also in need. So I feel this year we're probably going to have more of a demand, more work, inshallah.
We're going to need your support
to feed, this 100%. Ramadan, because literally for a pack of bread, we was getting rushed, crowds of people were literally, they didn't care if I was a woman wearing a hijab, but they did not care. They just wanted a pack of bread. I had old ladies asking me, look, I need more than just one pack, please. And I was trying to sneak it and give them more than one pack because I could tell how desperate they were. SubhanAllah. And that's the sad thing, that you see that side of the city is mainly the Sunni side of Sunni areas of Aleppo city, which has literally been left as it was when Bashar al-Assad basically bombed the hell out of Aleppo city back in 2016 when the siege was happening, and those areas are still left exactly the same, and those families and those people are still living in severe poverty.
I think one of the things I'm going to be introducing, so I do have a bit of a plan, but I'm gonna just put it out there now. So this is the first time she's hearing this. But one of the things that I want to work on and I want you guys to be a part of is GSP, the Greater Sham Project. Many of you guys care about Palestine. Many of you guys care about Al-Aqsa, right? But what we have to understand is historically, it's always been a fact that Iraq, Mosul, then Aleppo was freed. Then Damascus, Sham was freed. Then Egypt was freed. And then Palestine. So we have a lot of work to do. Where we are right now, Alhamdulillah, Aleppo is a cornerstone. It's a very important place where we need to make sure the work that we do is a long-term project, 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years thinking ahead so that we can help our brothers and sisters. We cannot be reactionary anymore. And that's what separates us from many other charities, any other projects that you see. We're doing long-term work, alhamdulillah. Like the tarbiyah projects we've been working on, they're a part. There may be a small percentage, but of the victories that are happening today, right? So it's really important. We've got kids that we're working with, our doctors now. When airstrikes are happening, they are the ones that are, treating these casualties. So that's what a lot of our work's been about. So that's why if you're interested in getting involved in GSP, the Greater Sham Project, then write it in the comments and we will contact you as well, inshallah ta'ala.
Inshallah.
So I think we've spoken so much about Syria. Maybe we'll come back to it in a bit. But let's talk about some other stuff. Obviously, a name. We were supposed to check the comments. I'm sorry, I did respond.
I checked the comments.
I did respond to some of the comments.
Yeah.
But we were also supposed to do a poll on Instagram because that's where some of our biggest following is.
Yeah.
To get a name for the show.
We've just had no time.
I think this is still going to be called episode 2. And you can't blame us. We've literally been in Aleppo, then in Hama. Tomorrow I might be going to Homs. So forgive us. So this is still for now going to be episode 2. I don't know if you want to mention some of the names.
Someone said, how about React, Reflect and Educate?
Sarah AJ. S-A-R-A-J.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that was I like that name. React, Reflect and Educate.
Well, I don't know if we're the educators, but we can definitely react and reflect. Definitely.
Yeah, so that was one of the ones that I liked. There were some other ones, but it just doesn't really go with the theme. But inshallah, hopefully we're going to try. I'm not going to even promise now because things are just too crazy out here. But we're going to do a poll and we're going to put some names out there, inshallah ta'ala. And hopefully, if Allah wills, we will have a name for next week, inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah.
Our main thing is just to make sure we get it done. That we're consistent and we're talking to you guys. So what we'll do, let's go through a few of the comments.
Okay.
Or do you want to bring up the next topic and then we go through some of these comments?
We can go through some of the comments.
All right, so let's...
Someone said we can call it the Sunday Detox.
I think that... it's a funny play of words, but I think it's too centered around me, and obviously...
He's not the only...
I'm not that here. Right, so mashallah, jazakallah, we had a lot of people giving us support. Ghazal said, I'm so excited you guys are active again. And your inspiration for the ummah. We hope that we can inspire people, inshallah ta'ala, and inshallah we will try our best. We've been forced to get active again and we hope we can give you guys positive information.
The comment by John Maplin, may Allah protect you too, jazakallah khair. The banter was heartwarming to watch. The topics were excellent and your opinion is appreciated. On the issue of Imran Khan, he's just another darling of the West who is fulfilling the typical
role of a populist
leader, which is to distract the people from the secular nature of the system, because he insists on making the masses chase the mirage of justice in the corrupt democratic system. May Allah open the eyes of the Ummah in Pakistan and allow them to assess their leaders by the standards of the Sunnah of the Messenger ﷺ and the Tariqah of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum.
Yeah, I responded to this, John. I was like, obviously, it's kind of the lesser of the two evils. I think Imran Khan would be better for Pakistan than the current crooks that are running it and propped up by the West. But yeah, in order for us to get real Islamic leaders, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't change the state of a people until they change themselves. And I think our leaders reflect us. When you see all of this Dubai lifestyle and someone like bin Zayd coming out and saying that he's going to support Bashar, when Bashar's people, the Syrian people, don't even want Bashar, why do we have these leaders? Because unfortunately, a lot of us, we are going after that dunya, that materialistic lifestyle. Us supporting Dubai and these Khaliji areas is giving them that credibility. It's giving them that legitimacy.
Yeah, it's the same way as now. Just say, for example, the boycott for Israel. is happening. But many people, rush to boycott for Palestine, which is obviously a really good thing. But then at the same time are, given the other countries whose governments support also war criminals and people that are committing massacres.
Not only that, the UAE, these guys
them.
are the worst. They not only support, obviously, the normalization with Israel, but they also support Bashar al-Assad.
Yeah.
Like, they're the worst of the worst. Like, so, people go there for a lavish lifestyle. They go there for all of this stuff. But, if we are going to enjoy that lifestyle and enjoy this lifestyle with these kings, then we have to know that these are the kind of leaders that we're propping up.
Yeah.
And that needs to, make a change. Abu Adam, 1938, said, maybe you guys could make a video about the struggles with the charity org. I'm going to start one in Iraq, Kurdistan, and have no idea what I'm getting into, but I have a goal and a plan. But other than that, I could need info from you guys. Yeah, definitely. I've been wanting to do a charity series called Rethink, Redefine Charity. Inshallah, I've been working on it for a long time. I hope I can get that out. But yeah, sometimes it can be difficult when you're starting a project. It can be, what's the word that you say? It could be overbearing. It could be too much, where do I start sort of thing, right? But the point is that you should just start. So
the same way that we literally did.
That's it, literally.
We started with nothing, literally nothing, and we didn't even obviously know about receipts and all this stuff. We literally started with nothing.
We started with our bank accounts.
Yeah,
we
with
just
our own
started
bank
asking
accounts,
people.
and even literally we left England with money on us. Subhanallah, the money got taken off us, but we didn't even know that would be an issue. You know.
Alhamdulillah, we did manage to get the funds back. But yeah, all of these things. What I say is, when you've got a mission, when you've got a good intention, just start, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open doors for you.
Definitely.
Even people online, there'll be so many people that will be willing to guide you and help you, but you just got to start. If you're always, the most difficult thing is making that first step, but once you do, you'll never regret it, inshallah ta'ala.
And things, it takes time, so don't expect it to be perfect and to the level that you want it straight away. It could go that way or it might not. We've been through so many challenges, so many ups and downs and problems and issues, but alhamdulillah, it's all been a huge learning experience for us to get to this position where we are now.
Okay, Omar Ali said, enjoyed listening to this. Would like to hear in-depth, detailed discussion as to the groups that are involved in the conflict, their beliefs and actions over the last decade. The Sunnis who have made this recent push forward, are some of them not still part of ISIS? Wasn't someone imprisoned and tortured by HTS? Okay, so interesting.
There was also another comment saying, was you not kidnapped by HTS?
Yeah, so
maybe someone didn't get the news that he was released.
Yeah, so anyway, this was a really good point, because a lot of people find it difficult to understand the groups here in Syria, right?
Yeah.
Even people inside Syria sometimes find it difficult to grasp. But in short, I am going to do a video on this, inshallah ta'ala, but in short, for you to understand, let's just say, for example, if you're from the UK, I'm going to use a UK example. Let's just say the UK had a brutal, oppressive dictator as a ruler, and he was oppressing everybody. And there was this revolution, everybody started rising up. So let's just say London, the Londoners rose up and they started protesting, and they managed to kick the military out of their areas. What happened is, within London, within this one, you could say a county or state, you had East London rebel group, North London rebel group, Woopham Forest rebel group, Redbridge. You got all these different rebel groups that had different ideologies, different understandings. Some of them were just normal everyday people. Some of them were people that had a military background. Some of them were people that were more political, and they were all focused on fighting the regime. Eventually, some of them started making alliances. They became different groups. They became external, you could say, governments and people funding certain groups, and these groups were very fluid. They changed over the years. The alliances changed over the years. But now, in essence, there's no strong ISIS presence in Syria anymore. ISIS as an organized organization doesn't exist anymore. What you have is Jaish al-Watani, the Free Syrian Army groups. Well, the Free Syrian Army is actually an umbrella made of many smaller groups. So there's groups that are under that banner, and then you have HTS, which is also an umbrella organization, and there's other groups that are fighting under the Fath al-Mubin banner as well. So these are the two main umbrella big powerhouses in Syria at the moment. The FSA groups in the north are, you could say, more funded by Turkey, and HTS and Fath al-Mubin lesser, but they still do have obviously connections with Turkey and other countries. But that's basically what it's like. In terms of me and my run-ins with some of the groups here. Yeah, of course I've had run-ins with some of these groups, but they are our Muslim brothers. And my thing is that if they change their ways and they started doing those good things, we're always going to highlight those good things. And the bad things that they do, inshallah, we will always try to, advise them privately first. And then if they don't, then, we normally speak about them out against those things. It's not a thing of we're always trying to expose our brothers and cause some chaos. So now, mashallah, some of those groups are doing fantastic stuff, even amongst them at HTS. Even the way that they've been, some of the prisoners that they've released has been brilliant. The way that they've, given a bayan or spoken publicly, addressed the Kurds has been brilliant. The way they've addressed the Christians has been brilliant. So what we've seen from them is that they're really making an effort to try and make Syria for all Syrian people, and treat people in a humane way. And that's what we want to see more of. So people being critical of me, they're saying, look, weren't you against them? Yeah, I am. But obviously, if I was against them because of certain issues, but now if they start doing good things, I'm definitely going to highlight that. And inshallah ta'ala, we hope to see the best from them.
And I think, a lot of people from on the outside, there's a lot of negative propaganda right now, because of the situation right now is on every single news channel. Everyone's talking about the situation in Syria. And the one thing that keeps coming up is ISIS, ISIS, ISIS. And here's the thing, obviously we know that everyone outside doesn't have the same knowledge or understanding of the actual situation here on the ground. But, I find that the West have always tried to keep putting ISIS back into people's minds to make them, have a negative look on the situation and on the opposition forces here in Syria. And, ISIS did horrific crimes and were very extreme in their doings and how, what they thought was Islam, and ruined the name of the jihad because of their actions and because of their oppression of the people that in the areas that they came to and the people that were with them. So this is one thing that obviously has to be spoken about, is that just because you see a man with a beard and he's fighting for his freedom and fighting for his rights, it does not mean that he is ISIS. And it's very unfair of the West to put that, that name on anyone, on any Muslim who fights for their right as ISIS, because, somehow there is no stigma or, anything on, just say, for example, all Jews are Zionists, all Jews are war criminals like Netanyahu. That is not put onto all Jews. That way of thinking is not on all Jews, but for some reason, for the Muslims, the ISIS tag, the ISIS thing has always been there, and now it's coming back up again. The media is using that to make people against what is happening here in Syria.
All right, let's move on. A lot of the comments have been about Syria. Let's talk about some of the other stuff that's going on. One of the things that I saw that was really interesting this week, this is my only one point of, just general topics and comments, is because I follow football, I'm a Liverpool fan, as some of you will know, is Noussair Mazraoui, if that's how you pronounce his name, Moroccan footballer at Manchester United. And basically he refused to wear the LGBT colours, the jacket or something like that, because he said that it's against his religion. Now I've got to rate him. I've got to take my hat off to him, because when you're in an environment like that where you're a professional footballer and everybody else is basically towing the line, and you come out and you be strong, you can face consequences. There was another footballer who was fired in Germany. He got basically they sacked him, and he eventually took them to court and got a payout. But again, you got to rate people like that give up their dunya and they sacrifice their dunya for principle. And that's why Mazraoui, he could potentially face some sanctions, he could face some issues. They may even kick him out of the club. But when you do stuff like that for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and what you believe in, this is something big, and it inspires a lot of people. So much so that what I saw, which was amazing, is Jada Franson, who used to be, obviously she's very right wing, she used to be part of the EDL. She came out with a tweet saying that because she's all very Britain first, Christians, all of this, why is it that it takes a Muslim player to come out and speak out against LGBT and refuse to wear the jacket, not other Christian footballers, and we're supposed to be in England in a Christian country. Now, I think these kind of statements and these kind of things, subhanAllah, it's, when you look at it, that's one reason why people rate and respect Muslims, because they're like, what, these people, they stick to their principles. And you really don't see that in other spheres of life. And not as much in other mainstream religions. That's why, even other famous celebrities have stated that. They said that the discipline and the way that Muslims adhere to the religion is very inspiring, especially in this age where everything is just open and you could say just full of sin and
but that's the thing. Chaos. It's like, you think that they're doing these these kind of statements for the LGBTQ community and wearing the armbands, wearing the jackets and stuff, for people to respect their views and respect them and to respect their community thing. But then what about the respect for people with different beliefs? Because it's not only Muslims who are against, obviously, homosexuality. So why is there no option for people of other faiths and people of other religions to opt out to supporting something that is known to be not allowed in the religions? That's something that obviously should come out of situations like that, but it always seems like the negative always happens. But they're not looking at it. Is okay, he's got beliefs that go against this. It's not, why should it be a crime or something that is so huge when at the same time you're trying to be inclusive to the LGBTQ community, but then basically say your beliefs, your own beliefs, we don't care about it, but you're forced to confide with what they want,
conform to what they want.
To what they want.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are seeing in the West the ills of this kind of hedonistic lifestyle.
Yeah.
So even one of the recent ones was Dan Bilzerian. This guy was known for just sleeping with women and all this kind of drugs and cocaine and all this kind of stuff. But recently on the Palestine issue, he's come out. He came on Piers Morgan, and obviously they're accusing him of anti-Semitism. But he's like, look, I don't care. This is how I see it.
Yeah.
I see that a lot of these Zionists, they're controlling a lot of the industries, and why are we going and fighting their wars and creating or committing this genocide?
Yeah.
So he's someone that came from this proper life of you could say immorality, doing all sorts of the craziest things, and now he's taken a step back from that, and it's had a major impact, change on his life. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide all of these people and allow us to be people of haqq. So I just wanted to throw that in there. A lot of us sometimes as Muslims, we're chasing the dunya, but then you see examples like Mazraoui, people that alhamdulillah they've attained a high level in the dunya, but they're willing to give that up for principle, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's very few people that are willing to do that. One of the other things I want to mention is that I've always been very critical of Mohamed Salah, even though I like him and he's one of my favourite football players. I've always been critical because of the Christmas tree and him standing with a Christmas tree every year. But just a few days ago, I stood with some Christians in Aleppo and stood next to a Christmas tree.
But it's different to you putting up a Christmas tree.
Obviously, I'm just going to explain, right? So I was waiting for everyone to be very critical of me and say you're a hypocrite, etc., etc. But I'm assuming most people got it, right, and understood that the reason why we're doing that is because of misinformation that's taking place, that the Muslims are these terrorists, big bearded terrorist Arabs that are going into Aleppo and into these places and just ripping people's trees down and smashing up their places of worship, when one, Islamically that's not right, but two, that's not actually even happening.
Exactly.
So me standing there with those Christians, and it's crazy because they've invited me back for some coffee.
I feel that people obviously in the West will probably have more of an understanding in terms of living with Christians because it's a normal thing. But here now in Syria, there's been a lot of because of the ISIS kind of ideology, it's been pumped in social media, on Twitter. I don't know who that there's a famous American journalist, I can't remember what her name is, Cynthia or Claudia or something like that, but she's like, the Christians need to leave right now, the Christians are going to be massacred, they're going to be slaughtered.
There's a lot of scaremongering.
There's so much scaremongering happening right now. So we actually just randomly, we was driving through the Christian area of Aleppo, and we were supposed to go and see one other guy, but we ended up seeing this cafe that was open and they had a Christmas tree inside. So he was like, let's go inside. And we met two Christian brothers. We sat down, we had a long conversation. We asked them how the situation is for them, how they've been treated, how they're feeling about the whole thing. And it's the complete opposite of what's being pumped in the media, I think, about the treatment of Christians within Syria now that the opposition forces have taken over Aleppo city.
Yeah, and I think they were just really surprised. They were like, look, we'll be honest. And I think because we were British as well, that obviously helps to kind of break the ice. They were like, to be honest, what we'd heard about the rebels, we thought they were going to, be so evil and do so much bad to us, but they've been very, very kind. Even when it comes to alcohol, they've told us, look, at this moment in time, just put the alcohol behind. You can still, drink your alcohol, do your thing. But just don't be selling it publicly at the moment, in this current moment, until they put some laws and regulations in place. But they said, yeah, they were very nice, and yeah, they've invited me back. I just told them I'm busy at the moment. They asked for some Nutella, so I'm going to take them Nutella as a gift, because in Aleppo they don't have no Nutella, and in our areas we do. So inshallah, I'm going to take them a gift of Nutella. But yeah, I think this is really important that people see that we as Muslims, because this is from our history. Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi, when he took Bayt al-Maqdis, when he took Al-Aqsa back, he asked, where are the Christians, where are the Jews, whereas the Crusaders, when they went in, they massacred everyone. They even massacred their own Christian brethren that were, from a different sphere of Christianity from them, whereas the Muslims were very different. And that's how we've always been. Even Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, when he came into Al-Aqsa, when he was given the keys of Palestine, he asked where the Jews were, and he asked, he cleaned their areas and he brought them back to Palestine. So we are actually people that are about coexistence. Minorities have rights in Islam, and we don't want people to be like ISIS, paying every Muslim as ISIS, because that's not the case. And the rebels right now, that clearly isn't the case. Yeah. So should we wrap up this?
I think that's probably been enough for this week's. We did have one more topic, but I think we could probably leave that for next week. See how that pans out. What do you think?
So you got okay. It's up to you. So. Right, we're going to wrap it up, inshallah. There's still Takbirat going on. That means, inshallah, more villages are being liberated. People are being, handed over. We've got a vlog coming up, a short vlog. It's filmed as a reel on Hama, me entering Hama.
That will be probably out by the time this video gets out.
Inshallah.
We've got footage right now being edited as well to get out as well, inshallah, today, tomorrow. So alhamdulillah, we're trying to keep everyone updated. If anyone, like last week, has got any other questions or anything that they want to us to talk about on the show for next week, then please put it in the comments.
Yeah, that would be good, actually. That will help us to prepare for this. Like, if you tell us what topics you want us to talk about.
It can be anything to do with life in Syria. Obviously, we've got our kids here, family life, our daily chores, what we do in our day. It could be absolutely anything. Inshallah. So put in the comments what you want us to talk about, and inshallah, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.
Definitely. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.